Now, what does he mean there?
Well, number one, he teaches us that that never was a real serpent.
It was not a real serpent
that went into the garden.
What was it?
But as you know, the Bible is written in symbols and parables, and this serpent or snake is a symbol that's used to hide the real identity of the one whom that actually was.
Well, who was it?
The white man.
Now, is this your standard teaching?
Yes. He teaches us that the black man by nature is divine.
Now, does this mean that the white man by nature is evil?
By nature, he is other than divine.
Well, now, does this mean that he's evil? Can he do good?
By nature, he is evil.
He cannot do good.
History is best qualified to reward all research, and we don't have any historic example where we have found that they collectively, as a people, have done good.
Do you teach them what you just said to me, that the white man is the symbol of evil?
You can go to any little Muslim child and ask him where is hell or who is the devil, and he wouldn't tell you that hell is down in the ground or that the devil is something invisible that you can't see. He'll tell you hell is right where he has been catching it, and he'll tell you who the one who is responsible for him having received this hell is the devil.
And he would say that this devil is the white man?
Yes.
Can a white man join your temple?
None have ever joined.
If one came up and attempted to join, would he be allowed to come in and be taught?
No, sir.
Why not?
Well, that's one of the reasons why most people think that Mr. Muhammad teaches hate. But if there is a rattlesnake in the field who has been biting your brothers and your sisters, and you go and tell them that that's a rattlesnake, and all of the harm that has ever come to them has come to them from that particular source, well, then that rattler will think that the warner is teaching hate. He'll go back and tell the other snakes that this man is teaching hate, this man is teaching hate, but it's not hate. It's just that when you study people who have been harmed and discover the source of their injury, the source of all of their defects, and you begin to point out that source, it's not that you hate the source, but your love for your people is so intense, so great, that you must let them know what is wrong with them, what is the cause of their ills. And this is one of the basic factors, I believe, involved when people think, or when the propaganda is put out that Mr. Muhammad teaches hate. He teaches black people to love each other. And our love for each other is so strong, we don't have any room left in our heart. Islam is a natural religion, and it is difficult to find a black body with a white head and classify that body as something that's natural. Most organizations that represent the so-called Negro, usually we find when we study them that though they are supposed to be for us the leadership or the brain power or the political power or whatever power that runs it, usually it's the white man.
How could so few white people rule so many black people? This is the thing you should want to know. How could so few? The white man today will tell you that thousands of years ago, the black man in Africa was living in palaces. The black man in Africa was wearing silk. The black man in Africa was cooking and seasoning his food. The black man in Africa had mastered the arts and the sciences. He knew the course of the stars in the universe before the man up in Europe knew that the earth wasn't flat. Is that right or wrong? Then if the black man in Africa had reached such a high state of civilization so long ago, at a time when the people of Europe were crawling on their all fours, what happened to make these people or enable these people to come out of the cave and come down into our civilization and take it over and hitch us to the plow? What happened? How did they do it? These are the things you should want to find out before you say hooray, hooray, hooray. Is that right or wrong?
It is knowledge of self that the so-called Negroes lack, which keeps them from enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. This belongs to them divinely as much as it does to other nations of the earth. We are the mighty, the wise, the best, but do not know it. Being without the knowledge, we disgrace ourselves, subjecting ourselves to suffering and shame. We could not get the knowledge of self until the coming of Allah. To know thyself is to know all men, as from us came all, and to us all will return. I must keep warning you that you should give up the white race's name and religion in order to gain success. The days of success are over. Their rule will last only as long as we remain asleep to the knowledge of self. Awake and know that Allah has revealed the truth. Stop believing in something coming to you after you are physically dead. That is untrue, and no one can show any proof of such belief. Again, know that Jesus was only a prophet and cannot hear you pray any more than Moses or any other dead prophet. Know too that this white race was created to be the enemy of the black mankind for 6,000 years, which make their number to be 6. That is not your number or mine. We do not have a number because we have no birth record. Do not let anyone fool you. This is the separation and the war of Armageddon. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to On the Shoulders of Giants, and happy Monday. We are continuing our reading of Elijah Muhammad's message to the black man in America, and we are picking up on the second chapter, Original Man, which goes from pages 31 to page 67. And knowledge of self, that's where we're starting at. Knowledge of self, knowing who we are, understanding who we are, understanding our greatness, realizing our power, utilizing power, accumulating power. The overall thing that I gather from the reading of this, and you'll see as we go through it, is, main things that we lack knowledge of self. We lack knowledge of self because of the oppression and the enslavement that has happened to us here in America. The white man brought Africans from Africa to over to America, stripped us of our consciousness and who we are, and implanted a foreign consciousness in us, implanted a foreign way of being into us, and we became the slaves, the workers, the labor for white America. That was the consciousness that was put into us. And with that consciousness being put into us, it keeps us in a docile and subservient position, even after being physically freed from slavery, because we were never brought here to flourish. So he's asserting that it is on us to put ourselves in a position of power to be able to flourish. But also he's getting at the nature of the white man. He believes white people are inherently evil. That is Elijah Muhammad's belief, that white people are inherently evil, that white people were created to be evil, and through their evil atrocities, because in his mind, the logic is only evil people oppress others. Only evil people oppress others, right? So that's the logic and some of the philosophies that he's getting into. But knowledge of self, self-love, and the understanding of your enemies. Do you really understand your oppressor? Do you? Have you really taken the time to study your oppressor thoroughly? Because if you haven't, you are far behind, and that may be one of the factors that lead to you or others really not gaining the power and the respect that we need. Do we really know our enemies? And another question, do we really know who we are? So let's get into it. So picking up on page 32, first, love yourself. One of the gravest handicaps among the so-called Negroes is that there is no love for self, no love for his or her own kind. This not having love for self is the root cause of hate, disunity, disagreement, quarreling, betraying, stool pigeons, and fighting and killing one another. How can you be loved if you have not love for self? How can you be loved if you have not love for self and your own nation, and dislike being a member of your own? then what nation will trust your love and membership? So if you don't love yourself and your own people, why should other people from other nations love you? Why should people from other nations respect you? If you don't love yourself or your group, trust me, you won't get love or respect from any other group. You say of yourself, I love everybody. This cannot be true. Love for self comes first. The Bible, the book that you claim to believe, says, love the brotherhood. That's the 1 Peter 2:17. Love one another. That's John 15:17. Love of self comes first. The one who loves everybody is the one who does not love anyone. This is the false teachings of the Christians, for the Christians war against Christians. I mean, Islam war against Islam too. So my job is to read this book, but my job is to make sure the information comes across accurate and we giving right information, because you have to make sure we get it right. So yes, Christians did war against Christians, but Muslims also warred against Muslims. Let's not act like that didn't happen too, right? So they have the Bible so twisted by adding in and taking out of the truth that it takes only God, or one whom God has given the knowledge of the book, to understand it. The Bible puts more stress upon love for thy neighbor than love for the brother. When asked, who is thy neighbor? The answer was contrary and incorrect. Jesus's answer was that of two men who were on a journey. They were not from the same place. One was from Jerusalem. The other was a Samaritan. The Samaritan came to where the man for Jerusalem lay wounded by the robbers who had stripped him of his possessions. The Samaritan showed sympathy for the fellow traveler. He was not a neighbor in the sense of the word. A neighbor can be an enemy. Many enemies live in the same neighborhood of a good neighbor. But the answer that Jesus gave was a futile one, which could be classified as a parable of the so-called Negroes and their slave masters. The so-called Negroes fell into the hands of the slave masters, who have robbed, spoiled, wounded, and killed them. The Good Samaritan here would be the Mahdi, God in person, and he is often referred to by the Christians as the second coming of Jesus, or the Son of Man to judge man. This one will befriend the poor, the so-called Negroes, and heal their wounds by pouring into their heads knowledge of self and others, and free them from the yoke of slavery, and kill the slave masters, as Jehovah did in the case of Pharaoh and his people, to free Israel from bondage and the false religion of God's Pharaoh. There are many proofs in the Bible which agree with the above answer. Love yourself and your kind. Let us refrain from doing evil to each other. And let us love each other as brothers, as we are the same flesh and blood. In this way, you and I will not have any trouble in uniting. It is a fool who does not love himself and his people. Your black skin is the best, and never try changing its color. Stay away from intermixing with your slave masters' children. Love yourself and your kind. I cannot agree with that more. We must love ourselves. That's one of the main things that happened to us as they broke us and made us slaves, is they made us hate ourselves. They made whiteness the standard, and blackness became something that we would run from. That's part of that foreign consciousness being implanted into us, right? So they taught us to hate ourselves and everything black. They still do the dog test, and every time they do the dog test, even the little children have learned from such a young age that blackness is not good enough. We must learn to love thyself. This melanin, all this melanin is so beautiful. I don't know about y'all, about how y'all feel about y'all melanin, but if y'all are anywhere in the same mind frame as me, this melanin is so beautiful. Oh, this skin is so beautiful. This nappy hair, it's so great. It's so great. It's so beautiful. My edge gone, but my bald head beautiful too, right? The side hairs that still come in the back, they beautiful too, right? Everything about my blackness, everything about your blackness is beautiful. I 100% agree with that. We must first love thyself. You cannot love anyone else if you don't love yourself. Matter of fact, no other group of people will really trust us to be something viable to them if we're not viable to ourselves. Think about that. Don't be a token. Be respected. And one of the ways that we can get respect is to learn to respect and love ourselves first. We have to relearn how to love ourselves first. We have to get rid of the vacant esteem. Get rid of the vacant esteem and learn to love ourselves as individuals and ourselves as a group. Self-love is the best love. I cannot pour love into you if I don't have love within me. All right. There is much misunderstanding among us because of our inferior knowledge of self. We have been to schools where they do not teach us the knowledge of self. We have been to the schools of our slave masters' children. We have been to their schools and gone as far as they allowed us to go. That was not far enough for us to learn a knowledge of self. The lack of knowledge of self is one of our main handicaps. It blocks us throughout the world. If you were the world and you were a part of the world, you would also turn a man down if he did not know who he actually was. If we, the so-called Negroes, do not know our own selves, how can we be accepted by the people who have a knowledge of self? And that's a great question. If we don't know who we are, how do we expect other people to accept us? But a better question is, how do we expect people to respect us if we don't have knowledge of self? Now, yes, the schools did not teach us who we are, but we must remember the schools were not set up to teach us who we are. If we want to learn who we are through the school systems, through educational systems, they have to be the educational systems that we set up for ourselves. Do for self. It is not our oppressors or slave masters' job to do for us. Why would they do that? It doesn't make sense, but it makes hella sense for us to do it for ourselves. Don't complain. Damn it. Get active. Do for self. Right. Yes. The educational systems were not set up for us. Nope. You're not going to learn knowledge of self in our schools. But if you want to learn knowledge of self, we can learn them in our own schools that we create for our own children. And nowadays, there's so much information that's available. We have no excuse, just like this channel, right? All right. Help self before helping others, right? Many of my people, the so-called Negroes, say we should help the nations of Africa, which are awakening. This has been said as if we owned America. I like that. It's like, hey, we're gonna help Africa. But he's like, hold up, y'all saying that like y'all got like real clout and power over here, right? We are so foolish. What part of America do you have that you can offer toward helping Africa? Who is independent, the nations of Africa or us, right? The best act would be to request the independent governments of Africa and Asia to help us. We are the ones who need help. We have little or nothing to offer as help to others. We should begin to help at home first. And Pat and PC did a show on this maybe over a year ago when we were talking about how we can't help Africa. We can't. We're not a nation ourselves. The best way to help Africa is to become a united nation of people here in America with all of the numbers and the resources that we have here in America. But until we unite and become a people here in America, we can't afford to help anybody else because we can't afford to help ourselves. But if we were to unite and become a united people, become a nation of people, then we can help ourselves and help others. Now, with the full understanding that 100% of Black people, or even the majority of Black people, will not be down with this of us becoming a nation. But if enough of us do it, then we got something. But I agree. We have to help ourselves at home first. Let's become a nation of people here in America first before we go over and trying to lift up other people's nations. Because, I mean, what are we giving them? Scraps that we could possibly use for ourselves. We are 20 million strong. Many of the nations today that have their independence and those who are getting their independence are much smaller in number than my people in America. We are dependent on the slave master. And remember, nowadays we're like 40 million strong, right? So we have doubled in size, but we don't have as many people as we could through a lot of the means that we're going to get to later in this chapter. But So we do not have 2 feet of earth for our nation of people. You and I here in America are licking the boots of the slave master, begging him for the right of independent people. Yes, we are licking his boots. Sir, let me shine your boots. You have been doing that for approximately 400 years. Today, if one rises up in your midst and says, we should not lick the slave master's boots, we should lick our own boots, you would say, he should be killed. He should be killed because he was teaching us to hate. My people, you are in a dangerous position. And this is what Malcolm X was getting at in the video. Get that fear out of you and stand up for your people. Who are you to not die for your people? Who am I to not die for my people? If I am shot down or cut down today, who is Elijah Muhammad to the 20 million of you? If a million of us throw ourselves in the fire for the benefit of the 20 million, the loss will be small compared to the great gain our people will make as a result of that sacrifice.